Hello everybody, welcome back to another video game analysis, and today we're going to be talking about a series I actually happen to love very much, Animal Crossing. And while it is a very popular Nintendo franchise, it's undeniable and understandable that there are plenty of people who don't get it, who don't understand why Animal Crossing is so beloved, and maybe they understand too, but it's just not for them. And there's just a couple things I want to share about that today in my analysis of this series and what makes it so alluring and charming that I would like to talk about. And for this video, we're going to go through a lot of. I'm going to be talking a lot about the games and a lot of the side games that came out of it. It's going to be fun, so we'll get right to it. Animal Crossing began as Animal Forest, and I think it's still Animal Forest in Japan, and it actually originated on the N64. Like, when Americans played Animal Crossing here on the GameCube, they were playing a Nintendo 64 port, and it was a very late generation Nintendo 64 game, so you can get away with that. And what made it interesting was it was originally meant for the N64 DD, the disk drive, and I'm sure everyone knows that story, so I'll just go over that quickly. It was a failed attachment for the N64 that lets you use data disks where they had an internal clock, and that was something really big, and that was something Animal Crossing wanted to do, wanted to accomplish, was having a game that had an internal clock, that it could follow real time, that between the one time you play the game and the next time, that real time skips and jumps. When you come in at night, it's nighttime. When you come in the morning, it's morning time. You come in dawn, it's dawn, all that kind of thing, stuff. And there's different events that happen, and, of course, like many DD games, it had to be converted to a regular Nintendo cartridge for the N64, and then this is one of the games that got a port. And this was just something Nintendo wanted to do. They had a new possibility. They saw a lot of capabilities with an internal clock, and they came up with the idea of making a life simulator, a simulator with animals. And I like to think of that as, it reminds you of old cartoons, maybe, anthropomorphic animals interacting. You're like the one human or whatever Animal Crossing villagers are. I guess you can just call them villagers. And, it gives the idea of innocence, and that's something Nintendo was very known for, was the family-friendly, I should say, game company. And they wanted to do the same for life simulators. The whole idea of Animal Crossing is alluring because of that. There's this idea that, yeah, it's not a typical idea you have a video game where it's action-packed or there's lots to do, but rather there's a real-world feeling behind it where you can just escape your life and go to something that's simpler, more innocent, more idealized. And while that, you can achieve things. Like, I like to think of Animal Crossing as a kind of game that was made before the smartphone game, where you have or even before achievements, where you do little things bit by bit that grows into something, and the lack of goal lets you set your own goals, and the lack of objectives set your own objectives. Maybe you always want to pay off the debt. That's something. You always want to complete the museum. Then things like that make you part of the community. You built your community. You named your town. You moved to your town. That's to me anyway, and a lot of people, that's the whole main allure of Animal Crossing, where it's simple and you get to live a life, outside of your life. That's the whole point of video games. A lot of people say, I play video games to escape. I want to be something I'm not. And Animal Crossing, I'm not going to say it's my favorite. I'm sure it's not a lot of people's favorite, but for those whose it is, they just love, and ourselves just love the idea that Animal Crossing provides you to meet friends in this world, and lets you be responsible for things in this world. It lets you look for rare items, rare things you can show off to your neighbors and friends. And I spent a lot of time playing with my friends growing up. We all had a copy. It was really popular in our neighborhood. We put our memory cards together so we can visit each other's towns, which is a really genius idea, along with the idea of the internal clock. And we experimented. We saw who had the better home, who had the better gardens, who had the most completed museums. It goes further beyond than just what's inside the game. It's a similar effect with Pokemon too, like a whole idea of trading and battling with the link cable between two consoles. And that's just it. You have it's like having like that's this is with life simulators as a whole. That genre of game, it's having a whole life on your own and seeing how far ahead you can get. You're in a competition. Uh, with people like your rivals, another similar thing to Pokemon. But at the same time, you're trying to achieve stuff for yourself, and you're not trying to do it just to complete a game. You're doing it because it's just part of the life in Animal Crossing. There's something really satisfying about slowly building something. Like, you're creating something within your community, you're creating a life, you're creating a home, you're creating a neighborhood. And no matter what it is, really, being able to customly create something and slowly build it based on your timing, your attitude, your patience, what you want to do that day, if you have a daily routine, how long it takes for that to grow into a big milestone like paying your debt um, or getting a certain villager you wanted. It's really nice, and that's something that comes with the gameplay of Animal Crossing. You're building something, you're creating the best town possible till you get that gold statue, and even then you can keep going. You want all the songs, you want to personally know every animal possible, you want to have a whole town with nothing but bears in it. You can do that. And speaking of which, there is another aspect I think is really important in Animal Crossing, something that even makes hardware possible, or something that makes games invented even. So to keep with the format of the show, I always have to do 3 or 4, I'll throw in a little one games, which is what I did today. I got 4 games. Well, this is technically not a game for those who know what this is, but um, it was tricky because I realized there's only 2 main series Animal Crossing games I can record. Everything else is on handhelds, which personally I prefer for an Animal Crossing game. I think it's better off in a handheld format, which is going to make a Switch version of this series very interesting. So here we have the Animal Crossing Plaza on the Wii U. It was basically an alternate version of the Waru Waru Plaza, as they call it, when you first log into a Wii U, or the Wii. Technically, I think had a similar thing. Well, yeah, and you got to take a sneak peek at who some of my favorite animals are. And this was cool. When Miiverse was around, you were able to answer questions, go through polls, find out who was the most popular character. And that's just what it comes down to entirely. The characters are such a huge part of Animal Crossing. When you have NPCs in a normal game, it comes down to, they might have some useless jargon to tell you just because they need to make it look like a full town. They want to have a lot of people there. And you know, um, it's cool to see that every character in this game was meant to have someone you can have a relationship with. You can like or dislike. You can know their quirks. They have vices. They have desires. And this, a little bit of a tangent, is a fun fact. The first time I've ever played Amiibo Festival, I had the game for like years, but this is the first time I popped it in because I realized, oh yeah, I can record this. So it was fun. I liked Amiibo Festival. It's definitely more fun with more players, but I liked it. For a lot of complaints the game gets, I thought it was pretty solid. But more importantly, the whole purpose of this game was stated. The creators of the game just wanted Animal Crossing Amiibo figures because Animal Crossing Amiibo went down to cards because there's so many characters, and it wasn't a foreign concept because the first Animal Crossing United States, as well as the sequel Animal Crossing in Japan, used the e-reader, which had QR cards, so you can have your favorite characters in your town, which is I'm sure something the Switch will do, where you can just scan Amiibo in, and all that. And yeah, here's a few of the figures you're able to scan. I showed a couple of them off of my favorites I had nearby, and I love these characters. Tom Nook's the classic. The Mr. Rossetti's actually, that's probably an unpopular opinion, but I very much like Mr. Rossetti. And Isabelle, the newest character from the newest game, New Leaf, she became such a popular character really fast. She was very welcome in the Nintendo fandom. She was very welcome into the Nintendo universe. It was very similar to Rosalina, how quickly she was adopted and taken into the whole extended Nintendo universe, and how many fans just clung to her and loved her. The same thing with Isabelle. A great character. The developers put all their time and effort to every character, especially the people who make towns possible, like Isabelle or Tortimer. Before Isabelle came along, but Tortimer does the fun mini games now, and Mr. Rossetti, Tom Nook. And these are the characters you always get to see. You might see a familiar face in the towns you get. You get some favorite characters, but there might be characters you haven't seen in years, or you forgot about, or characters that are completely new. And that's just something that makes Animal Crossing great. Is that it really does a great job with the simulation game, where it just goes further than you customizing everything around you. There's also people you get to know. A life simulator. You're simulating life. You're being social. You're moving around and doing favors for people. You're listening to their problems or their joyous moments. And yeah, it's really cool. All of that together makes a great experience. I really believe that. And that's the identity to me of Animal Crossing. I know there's plenty of things I'm probably missing, little nuances that a lot of people like to talk about. And there's a lot of characters I'm not mentioning, like Rooster's a big favorite of mine. But, there's other aspects to it too. But, I guess there's another question that people probably have who don't understand the allure or the charm of Animal Crossing. So we talk about all these alluring traits of Animal Crossing. I think it's also important to talk about why people keep coming back. I actually skipped Wild World. I got to play it later in life, but my second Animal Crossing game was City Folk here, and I enjoyed it. I loved the idea of the city, that I got to escape my village for a little while to go to somewhere bigger and experience and go get things I couldn't in my village. And I thought that was really cool, and that eventually evolved into Main Street that we see today in Animal Crossing New Leaf. And it is upsetting. We never got the first HD Animal Crossing on the Wii U. That's something I always think about, but I know there's going to be a Switch version of Animal Crossing. It's too perfect. Like I said before, I love the idea of a handheld Animal Crossing. I think it's a much better platform. Like, even Happy Home Designer was pretty fun. And the idea of all these interconnectivities between these sides games and this. I'm looking forward to seeing if a Switch version of Animal Crossing would interact with the mobile version of Animal Crossing, Pocket Camp. I think that's what it's called. Anyway, I'm so terrible. Anyway, where there's some sort of connectivity. Maybe you can bring in your items that you can only get in certain events. Maybe you could have a certain. Maybe they'll incorporate the level up system with the friends that they have in there. You can skip some steps. I think that's really cool. And this just comes down to there's a lot of evolution in Animal Crossing. The developers of this game do a great job seeing what worked, what didn't, and how can we improve. Like, New Leaf was brilliant. The idea of customizing your town and mentioning Happy Home Designer again, that brought it to a new level. And then eventually, people love the editing software in Happy Home Designer so much they put it in New Leaf, a Welcome Amiibo, which added the Amiibo functionality. And Nintendo takes both real-world applications with their consoles, which they even did in the first game with the internal clock and the memory card system and the e-reader. And with this game, they came with a thing called the Wii Speak, which was an attempt to have online chats with people while they visit towns on the internet, which didn't unfortunately go very well. All this stuff just comes together. You are, I guess you can say you're playing the same game every time. I always think that's a lazy argument, because every sequel you can make that argument. Oh, it's just a rehash. You're playing the same game every time. But the experience gets more refined. It gets more enjoyable. There's more to it every time you play. There's plenty of familiar things that keep you together, but you can start customizing your hair, your eye color in later games. You can change your shoes, change your pants, to make your town more customizable, more and more. Even in New Leaf, you can just have your own attractions, make your town look a certain way. And I'm looking forward to seeing what Animal Crossing does in the future. It's like having a great game you played and remembered as a kid, but you get to do it again. But this time, there's things that you don't have to worry about. There's no things that'll make you upset or frustrated, and there always will be flaws, but this game is just the perfect game to just keep expanding. There's always new ideas. Like maybe, like I remember I saw a YouTube video where a guy had an idea, like what if we had an Animal Crossing, you know, because we travel on buses, trains, boats. Why not planes? And I thought it was an interesting idea. And how big can the villages get? How many people can you get? What are you going to be the mayor in the next game? You know, there's a lot of cool questions you can think about, and there's a lot of possibilities. So that's another one, guys. Another one done. So next time, we're going to be talking about hardware that was unsuccessful. Maybe not because it was bad, like the Virtual Boy, but because maybe it was too ahead of its time. Maybe it was something that people weren't ready for yet. If there's anything I missed, if there's anything I got wrong, if there's anything you would like to add to the conversation, please do not hesitate to leave a comment, a like, or a share. I have been Billy, your video game analyzer. Thank you all so much for watching. Have a good day, good night whenever you're watching this, and I'll see you next time.